Hey there, welcome to my channel. I'm here to help you relax tonight. Though before you get too cozy, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. Let's enjoy the story. This first story happened to a guy named Ethan. Back then, he was 20, broke, and working nights at a small ice cream place called Sunny Scoop. It sat at the corner of a quiet street next to a laundromat that always smelled like fake lavender. The shop wasn't anything special. Pastel walls, little metal tables, chalkboard menu with cute flavor names. But at night, when the last customers left and the manager went home, it started to feel off. It was always too quiet. You could hear the freezers humming and the cheap radio in the back playing soft pop songs with way too much echo. Ethan did closing shifts 4 nights a week. He'd mop the floors, restock napkins, and cover each ice cream tub with plastic lids. One Tuesday, he noticed a flavor that wasn't there before. It sat all the way on the end in one of the deep metal tubs, half covered with frost. No label on the glass, no little plastic sign. Just a pale gray swirl of ice cream, smooth on top like it had never been touched. He leaned in and frowned. What are you?" he muttered. The weirdest part was the smell. It didn't smell like chocolate or vanilla or fruit. It smelled familiar. Not in a, "oh hey, this is cookie dough" way. More like walking into a room you haven't seen since you were a kid and suddenly remembering the color of the curtains. He checked the cheat sheet on the wall where the manager had written out all the flavors and their ingredients. The last one on the list said, "Tonight's special for you." There was no description, no allergy info, nothing. Ethan just stared at it for a second, feeling this small, stupid chill go up his spine. He rolled his eyes at himself and kept cleaning. The first customer who noticed it was a woman in her 40s, in a business suit, clearly exhausted. She scanned the case and pointed to the gray tub. "What's that one?" she asked. Ethan opened his mouth, and nothing came out. He had no idea what to say. Then, without even thinking about it, he heard himself reply, "That one's kind of personal. You sure you want to try it?" He didn't plan those words. They just slipped out, smooth and automatic. The woman laughed awkwardly. "Personal? Like what? Diet ice cream?" He smiled, trying to play it off. "Something like that." But she insisted. "Give me a small scoop. I'm curious now." So he dug the scoop in. The texture felt colder than the others, like the freezer was set too low just for that tub. When he set the cup down, he realized his hands were shaking a little. The woman took a bite. Her face changed instantly. Not in a "this tastes bad" way, more like she just heard someone whisper her name over her shoulder. Her jaw tensed, her eyes went glassy. She took another bite, slower this time. "That's weird," she said softly. "You okay?" Ethan asked. She nodded, but she didn't look okay. Her eyes were focused somewhere far away. "You ever taste something and it feels like déjà vu?" she asked, almost to herself. She stood there for another minute, eating in silence. Then she pulled some crumpled bills out, dropped them on the counter without looking, and left without saying goodbye. The bell above the door jingled. The shop felt colder. Ethan told himself she was just tired, work stress, whatever. But over the next week, it kept happening. Different people came in, and somehow their eyes always slid toward that gray tub. There was still no label. No one had written anything on the glass. No one had told them it was new. But they noticed it. A teenage guy came in with his friends, all loud and laughing. He ordered it as a joke. "Give me the mystery flavor," he laughed. "If I die, you're getting sued." He took one bite, and the laughter snapped off his face like a switch. He didn't joke. He didn't say it tasted bad. He just went really quiet. His friends nudged him, making fun of him for being dramatic. But there was something dead in his eyes. Another time, an older man in a faded jacket ordered it without asking what it was. He ate all of it slowly, staring at nothing, then left the empty cup on the counter and walked out with tears in his eyes. Ethan started to notice a pattern. Every single person who ordered that flavor looked like they were remembering something they'd tried really hard to forget. And every time he scooped from that tub, he smelled something different. Sometimes it smelled like cut grass after rain. Sometimes like cheap perfume. Sometimes like the inside of a school gym. It was never the same twice, but each time it felt like the smell was meant for whoever ordered it. One night, after close, Ethan decided to taste it. The shop was empty, door locked, blinds half down. The radio had switched to some late-night show where the host talked in this soft murmur. He stood in front of the case, staring at the gray ice cream. "Nah," he muttered, "this is stupid." But he grabbed a clean spoon anyway. He told himself it was just ice cream, maybe some weird experimental flavor. Corporate trying something new. Who cares? He scooped a small curl of it. His hand hesitated right before the spoon reached his mouth. He almost turned away. Then he put it on his tongue. For a second, nothing. No flavor. Just cold. Then it hit. It didn't taste like chocolate or mint or anything you can buy. It tasted like the waiting room the night his parents told him they were getting divorced. It tasted like the hallway outside the hospital room where his grandfather died. It tasted like the exact moment his first girlfriend said, "I don't love you anymore," and walked away. Memories didn't just come to mind. They wrapped around him, full body. He could smell the cheap disinfectant from the hospital, feel the cracked leather of the waiting room chair, hear the faint buzz of the fluorescent lights. He dropped the spoon. It clattered on the floor. His heart slammed against his ribs. His eyes burned. For a few seconds, his vision blurred, and the shop around him shifted. The bright pastel walls dimmed, colors draining out. The framed pictures on the wall, kids with ice cream cones, smiling families, changed. Their faces drooped, eyes blurred into smears. Some of the faces weren't even human anymore, just stretched shapes, wide mouths, empty, gray eyes. He blinked hard, rubbing his eyes. The walls snapped back. The pictures looked normal again. The spoon on the floor was clean. No ice cream on it at all. His mouth was empty, but the taste was still there, like something thick and cold stuck in his chest. He went home that night and couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he didn't see nightmares exactly. He saw tiny, ordinary moments he'd forgotten. The sound of his mom laughing in the car when he was 5. The feel of his dog's fur under his fingers. The flicker of a TV that wasn't his from a neighbor's window when he snuck out as a teenager. It wasn't all bad memories, just things he shouldn't have been able to remember in that much detail. The next night at work, he walked in and went straight to the case. The gray tub was still there, but now it was almost full again. He frowned. He was sure it had been nearly half empty. That night, he tried to avoid it. He didn't recommend it. He didn't look at it. But customers did. They'd stand there, squinting, then point straight at it like they'd already made up their mind. "I'll try that one." "Which one?" he'd ask, even though he already knew. "The new one." He never told them its name, but somehow every single one of them said the same thing after the first bite. "This tastes like something I almost forgot about." They'd say it in different ways, sure, but it was always the same idea. On his third week of closing shifts, Ethan snapped. It was late. He was alone. The manager had rushed out, leaving him the keys. He grabbed the gray tub with both hands, yanked it out of the freezer, and dumped it into the big trash bin in the back. The ice cream hit the plastic liner with a wet thump. He didn't want to look too closely, but for a split second, he swore he saw streaks of color under the gray, like threads of red, blue, green light tangled together. He tied the trash bag as fast as he could, hauling it out to the dumpster. The bag was heavier than it should have been. He had to drag it. It left a faint, cold smear on the floor. He tossed it into the dumpster, slammed the lid shut, and went back inside. His hands were freezing. It felt like the cold had crawled up his arms and settled under his skin. The next night, he came in, and his stomach dropped. The gray tub was back, sitting in the exact same spot. Full, smooth, no scoop marks. He checked the security camera monitor in the back. No one had come in after he left. The feed just showed an empty, dark shop. He stared at the screen. Then he looked at the wall where the flavor list was. Tonight's special for you. But now there was more writing under it. Tiny, shaky letters in pencil. Please stop throwing it away. It only makes more. Ethan quit a week later. No big dramatic scene, no confrontation. He just texted the manager and said he found another job. On his last shift, he didn't look at the tub. He didn't check if it was there. But right when he was about to leave, keys in hand, something made him glance at the glass. A little white plastic label had appeared in front of the gray ice cream. It said, "Regret." As he stared, the letters shifted for half a second like they were wriggling. Then they settled into new words. Ethan's. He walked out without locking the door. He never went back. Months later, he drove past the area and saw that Sunny Scoop had closed. The big glass windows were papered over. There was a for lease sign in the window. But on the door, barely visible through the paper, someone had left an old sticker stuck to the glass. It was faded, letters peeling, but he could still make out two words. Tonight's special. He drove a little faster after that. The second story happened to a girl named Megan. She was 23, working part-time and doing a lot of babysitting on the side. One Friday night, a couple hired her to watch their 7-year-old son, Noah. They seemed nice enough. Late 30s, tired eyes, polite smiles. The mom kept apologizing for the mess in the living room, even though the place was spotless. Noah was quiet, too quiet for a kid that age. He didn't run around or show her his toys. He just sat at the coffee table with a stack of printer paper and a pile of colored pencils. He didn't watch cartoons. He didn't ask for snacks. He just drew. Around 8:30 p.m., the mom texted Megan from the restaurant. If he asks for ice cream, there's a place 2 blocks over. It's called Sunny Scoop or something like that. It's safe. We go there all the time. Almost as if he'd seen the text, Noah looked up and said, "Can we get ice cream?" Megan laughed a little. "Sure. You want to go now?" He nodded. Before it gets too late, they don't like it when it's too late. She thought he meant the shop. She grabbed her bag, his little jacket, and they walked out into the cool night. The neighborhood was quiet. Street lights buzzed. A few cars passed by, windows up, faces briefly lit, then gone. 2 blocks later, they found the place. But it wasn't called Sunny Scoop. The sign over the door said, "Sunday's Best Ice Cream." Inside, though, it looked almost exactly like the place from the first story. Pale walls, little metal tables, chalkboard menu. Same layout, same style. Megan noticed the smell first. Not just sugar and waffle cones. something colder underneath. She brushed it off. The guy behind the counter, mid-30s, friendly smile, greeted them. "Hey there, late night ice cream run?" "Yeah," Megan said, "just a small treat before bed." Noah let go of her hand and went straight to the glass case, pressing his face against it. But he didn't look at any of the labeled flavors. His eyes locked onto the very end of the case. Megan followed his gaze. There was a tub of pale gray ice cream. No label. "Can I get that one?" Noah asked softly, pointing. The guy behind the counter smiled in this weird, tired way. "You sure, bud?" Noah nodded. "You know what that one is?" the guy asked. Noah didn't look away from it. "Yeah, it's for me." Megan didn't like the way he said that. She cleared her throat. "Maybe we stick to something simple? Chocolate? Cookies and cream?" Noah's voice sharpened. "I want that one." The guy shrugged and scooped it, like this was routine. Megan ordered a small vanilla for herself, paid, and took Noah to a table near the window. Outside, the street looked strangely empty. She could have sworn there were more cars when they walked over. Noah took a small bite. He froze. His eyes went a little out of focus, pupils shrinking. "Noah?" Megan asked. "You okay?" He blinked, and they refocused, but there was something older in them, something that made her skin crawl. He took another bite. "Does it taste good?" she asked, trying to sound casual. He nodded slowly. "It tastes like the last time they fought," he said. Megan stared. "Like your parents?" she asked carefully. He nodded again. In the kitchen, before the plates broke, a chill ran up her neck. "How do you know what that tastes like?" she asked before she could stop herself. He shrugged. "It just does." He took another bite. "And like the time you cried in the bathroom at work." Her heart stopped. "What?" she said, sharper than she meant to. He didn't look at her. He just kept eating. "The bathroom with the broken lock," he said. "You called your mom, but you didn't talk. You just held the phone." Her vision went weird for a second, like the edges of the room darkened. She stared at him. "How do you know that?" He finally looked up. "You smell like it." His tone was flat, matter-of-fact, like he was just saying the sky was blue. She pushed her cup of vanilla away. Suddenly, she wasn't hungry at all. The guy behind the counter watched them with this strange, patient look, like he was waiting for something. A song crackled through the shop speakers, some old jingle, looping too perfectly. She realized the same verse had been repeating over and over since they walked in. "Hey," she whispered to Noah, let's head back soon, okay?" "Not yet," he said. "I still have to draw." He pulled a folded piece of paper from his jacket pocket. Megan hadn't even seen him bring it. He set it on the table, grabbed a pencil from his pocket, and started sketching. Fast, too fast for a 7-year-old. His small hand moved in these fast, sure strokes, barely looking down. Lines appeared, shapes forming. "You should slow down," she murmured. "You'll mess it up." "I don't mess these up," he said quietly. The guy behind the counter turned around, pretending to clean, but Megan could tell he was listening. Noah finished the outline and turned the paper so she could see. Her stomach dropped. He'd drawn the inside of the ice cream shop. The tables, the window, the counter, the chalkboard menu, and 2 people sitting at a table by the window. Her and him. But the details were wrong in a way that made her throat dry. In the drawing, the street outside was pitch black. No streetlights, no stars, just empty, solid black. On the chalkboard, instead of flavor names, there were lines of messy writing. "You stay until we're done." "Okay, that's creepy," Megan said, forcing a laugh. "Very talented, but creepy." "It's not done yet," Noah said. He shaded in the window. In the drawing, something moved in the darkness outside. A shape with too many long arms reaching toward the glass. Megan suddenly had the urge to leave, now. She forced a smile. "All right, Picasso, we're heading back. Grab your cup." He looked up at her with a small frown. "You can't leave yet," he said. "Yeah, we can," she snapped, standing up. "Come on, buddy, it's late." The guy behind the counter cleared his throat. "You might want to wait a minute," he said. She turned on him. "Excuse me?" He lifted his hands like he didn't want trouble. "Just saying," he said. "Door's a little funny after 9. She checked her phone. It said 8:46 p.m. "We're fine," she said. She grabbed Noah's hand and walked to the door. The bell jingled as she tried to push it open. It didn't move. She frowned and pushed harder. Nothing. "Is this locked?" she called back. The guy behind the counter wiped his hands on his apron. "It shouldn't be," he said. "Try pulling." She pulled. The door didn't budge. She rattled the handle, jammed it with her shoulder. Nothing. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw Noah calmly eating his ice cream. "I told you," he said softly. "They don't like it when it gets too late." Megan swallowed hard. "What are you talking about?" He pointed with his spoon at the clock on the wall. It said 8:47 p.m. She stared at it for a second. Then she looked down at her phone again. 8:53 p.m. Her fingers went numb. She watched the clock. The second hand ticked forward. Then, without any pause, it jumped back. 8 seconds, 10 seconds, then forward again. "Okay," she whispered. "Nope." She turned to the guy behind the counter. "Call someone," she said. "The owner, your boss, whoever. This door is stuck." He hesitated. "We don't really call anyone," he said slowly. "What does that even mean?" she snapped. He sighed. "Look, this doesn't always happen," he said. "Usually people just get their ice cream and go. But sometimes," he trailed off. "Sometimes what?" she demanded. "Sometimes the shop wants a little more time with someone." The room felt smaller. "What are you talking about?" she said. Her voice was starting to shake. He nodded toward Noah. "Ask him. He understands better than me." She turned to the kid. "Noah, what is this?" she asked. "Is this a joke? Did your parents put you up to this to scare me?" He shook his head. "They don't know about this place," he said. "Not really." He held up his drawing. He'd added something new. In the picture of the shop, he'd drawn her sitting alone. Her chair was empty in real life. In the drawing, she was still there, hands flat on the table. "Noah," she whispered, throat tight, "draw something else. Draw us walking home. Draw us leaving." He shook his head again. "I can't draw something that isn't going to happen," he said. "That's not how it works." The guy behind the counter watched her with this sad, sympathetic expression. "For what it's worth," he said, "it doesn't hurt." Her chest clenched. "What doesn't hurt?" she asked. He leaned on the counter. "When the shop keeps you," he said. Her head spun. "You're crazy," she snapped. "Both of you." She grabbed a metal chair, dragged it to the front window, and slammed it against the glass. The sound rang out, sharp and painful. But the glass didn't even crack. It didn't even shake. The reflection of the shop in the glass looked slightly wrong. The colors were faded. Her reflection's face looked tired, older, like she hadn't slept in years. She backed away, breathing hard. "No, no, no." "Sit down," Noah said softly. "It's easier if you sit." She wanted to scream at him, but his face looked genuinely sad. "Why me?" she whispered. He shrugged. "It likes people who are already stuck," he said. "You were stuck before we even came here." He tapped his pencil on the paper. You cry in bathrooms where no one can hear you, he said. You stay with jobs you hate. You say yes when you want to say no. Tears burned in her eyes. She hated how accurate that was. She sank into the chair across from him. Is this what you do? She asked. You lure people here? Is that what you are? He looked offended. I'm just like you, he said. Then how do you know so much? He glanced at the guy behind the counter. Because I've been here before, he whispered. She looked at him properly then. His eyes did look older, tired, like he'd seen this happen more than once. How do I get out? She asked. He stared at his drawing for a long moment. You have to take a different flavor, he said. He pointed at her untouched vanilla. You didn't commit, he said. You chose something safe. The shop doesn't like that. That doesn't make any... Her voice broke. Fine, she said. What flavor am I supposed to take? He pointed back at the gray tub behind the glass. The one that's for you, he said. The guy behind the counter sighed like he'd been waiting for this. You sure about that, kid? He asked. Noah nodded. She won't get out if she doesn't taste it. Megan stood slowly, legs shaking. She walked to the counter. The gray ice cream waited in its tub. It looked dull, unappetizing, like concrete. As she stared at it, she smelled something she couldn't mistake. The exact cheap floral soap from the bathroom at her job. The one she'd locked herself in while trying not to sob loud enough for anyone to hear. Just a small scoop, Noah said behind her. She swallowed. Will this really let me leave? She asked the guy. He hesitated. Then he nodded once. It'll let you leave, he said carefully. She didn't like the way he phrased that, but she was out of options. He handed her a clean spoon. Her hand shook as she scooped a tiny bit and brought it to her lips. It was cold, too cold. Then the taste hit. Not exactly a flavor, more like a feeling. Every time she'd given up on herself, every time she'd swallowed her anger, every time she'd stayed quiet when she wanted to scream. She saw herself over and over saying, "It's fine," when it wasn't. The shop spun around her. For a second, she wasn't at the counter anymore. She was in her car after a 10-hour shift, forehead on the steering wheel. Then she was in her bedroom, staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. Then she was on a bus at 16, watching other kids get off with friends and wondering why she couldn't seem to connect with anyone. It was all her, not some monster, not a ghost, just her, and the weight she'd been carrying. When she blinked, she was back in the shop. The gray ice cream sat in front of her, untouched. No scoop missing. Her spoon was clean. She turned toward Noah. He was coloring in the last part of his drawing. In it, the door to the shop was open. The street outside was no longer black. Streetlights glowed. A small figure held a child's hand, walking away. Is that us? She asked. He nodded. You can go now, he said. She walked toward the door, heart pounding, and pushed. It swung open easily. The bell jingled. Cold night air rushed in, smelling like wet pavement and car exhaust and something almost like freedom. She grabbed Noah's hand and pulled him out onto the sidewalk. She turned back for a second. The guy behind the counter gave her a small nod. On the chalkboard behind him, for just a moment, she saw the name of a flavor written in messy handwriting. Second Chance. Then she blinked, and it was gone. Just the normal flavor list again. They walked home in silence. At the apartment, Noah's parents came back, tipsy and happy, thanking her too loudly, paying her in cash. On the way out, she bent down to Noah's level. Hey, she whispered. That place, the ice cream shop, have you really been there before? He tilted his head. Yeah, he said, lots of times. Why? She asked. He looked past her, down the hallway where his parents were bickering quietly about the bill from dinner. "They always pick babysitters who are stuck," he said. "The shop likes helping them, in its own way." Her stomach flipped. "Is it dangerous?" she asked. He thought about it. "Only if you pretend you're fine when you're not," he said. "It doesn't like lies." As she walked down the stairs, Megan checked her phone. The time said 10:02 p.m. She checked the clock on the kitchen wall in the apartment downstairs when she passed by. It said 9:21 p.m. She decided not to look at clocks for the rest of the night. A week later, she walked past where she swore Sunday's Best ice cream had been. There was no shop there anymore, just a boarded-up storefront with a faded outline where a sign used to hang. Someone had spray-painted 3 words on the plywood: "We're still open." The last story happened to a guy named Ryan. He drove for delivery apps. Late nights, long shifts, too much caffeine, not enough sleep. He liked the night orders. Less traffic, fewer people, more quiet. One rainy Thursday, around 11:40 p.m., he got a notification. New order, ice cream pickup. The place was called Midnight Sunday. He frowned. He'd never heard of it, and he'd been driving in that area for months. The map showed a little dot on a side street he didn't recognize. The payout was good though, really good. Way more than a normal ice cream run. So he accepted it. He drove through wet, shining streets, wipers squeaking, radio low. The GPS led him down a narrow side road with old brick buildings and a mix of flickering and dead streetlights. There it was. A small, bright ice cream shop wedged between a closed bookstore and an empty office. The sign above the door said, "Midnight Sunday, open late." But the open late part flickered, like it hadn't decided what time it meant. Inside, it looked weirdly familiar to him. Same kind of pastel walls, same layout, same metal tables. He'd never been in a place like this before. But something about it felt like when you walk into a dream you've had 10 times and only remember on the 11th. The guy behind the counter was older this time. Gray at the temples, tired eyes, polite smile. "You here for the order?" he asked. "Yeah," Ryan said, holding up his phone. "Pick up for... He squinted at the screen. The customer name field was blank. Instead, it said, "Delivery for the woman who doesn't sleep." He frowned. "What is this, some kind of joke?" he asked. The guy shrugged. "Order's in the back," he said. "Give me a sec." He disappeared through a swinging door. The shop was empty. No customers. Just the hum of freezers and the ticking of a clock on the wall. The chalkboard menu had normal flavors written in curly handwriting. Vanilla, chocolate, mint, strawberry. But in the bottom corner, in tiny letters, there was one more flavor. For you. No price, no description. The older guy came back with a small white container, sealed tight, frost forming around the edges of the lid. "Here you go," he said. "Don't open that." Ryan blinked. Okay, why would I open it?" he asked, half laughing. The guy didn't smile. "People get curious on long drives," he said. "Don't be one of them." He slid the container across the counter. As Ryan picked it up, a sharp, cold shot through his fingertips, up his arms, and into his chest. He almost dropped it. "Damn," he muttered. "You keep this at, like, Arctic temperatures?" The guy just watched him. "Drive safe," he said softly, "and be on time." The way he said "on time" made Ryan's skin prickle. Outside, the rain had slowed to a drizzle. The streets looked smeared and shiny, reflecting traffic lights. He put the container carefully on the passenger seat and started driving toward the drop-off location. It was in an older apartment building across town. He'd delivered there a few times before. Thin walls, old elevators, weird smells in the hall. As he drove, something felt off. The city around him looked sort of out of focus. Streetlights blurred more than usual. The radio station started to crackle, even though he was only 10 minutes from where he'd started. He checked the time on his dashboard, 11:52 p.m. He checked his phone, 11:47 p.m. He frowned. Glitch, he told himself. He turned down a main road and realized something else. There were no other cars. Not just fewer, none. For a full 2 minutes, he didn't pass a single car in either direction. No pedestrians, no bikers, just empty streets. He turned the radio off. The silence in the car felt thick. He glanced at the container on the seat. The outside was fogged from the cold. He could see his own distorted reflection in the plastic lid. "Don't open it," he muttered to himself. He turned onto the street with the apartment building. The building looked wrong. The lights in the hallways were dim yellow. Several windows were completely dark. Others glowed with this pale bluish light. He parked, grabbed the container, and checked the app for the unit number. It didn't show one. It just said, "Knock until she answers." He stared at it, annoyed. "Oh, come on," he muttered. "What is this, a creepypasta quest?" He checked the delivery address again. Same building, no unit. He considered canceling, but the payout was almost triple a usual run. He stepped into the lobby. The air was stale and cold. The elevator door was already open, waiting, which he hated. He stepped inside and hit the button for the 3rd floor. He figured he'd just start there and see if anyone had left a note. The elevator started moving, slowly. Halfway up, it jolted. The lights flickered, then steadied. He looked at the container in his hand. For a second, he thought he saw the lid swell upward, like something inside it was breathing. He blinked. It looked normal again. 3rd floor. The door slid open with a low groan. The hallway stretched out in both directions, carpet worn, paint peeling in spots. There were door numbers, but none of them had names or notes. He picked a direction and started walking. As he walked past each door, he listened. Silence behind most of them. But behind one, he heard someone pacing, footsteps moving back and forth, back and forth. He raised his hand to knock. Before he touched the door, the footsteps stopped. He waited. Nothing. He backed away slowly and kept walking. Halfway down the hall, he looked back. There was something sitting on the floor at the far end. He narrowed his eyes. It was a styrofoam cup, white with a lid, just like the one he was holding. He turned around fully. There were more now. 2 cups by one door, 3 lining the wall next to another, all sealed, all untouched. His mouth went dry. He checked his app again. The order details had changed. "She's on the floor above you." He hadn't felt his phone vibrate. He hadn't seen any notification. He swallowed hard and took the stairs to the 4th floor. Up there, the hallway felt tighter, the ceiling lower. There were no cups on the floor this time. He walked slowly, feeling the carpet squish under his shoes. At the very end of the hall, a door stood slightly open. A faint blue light spilled out from inside. He knew before he checked that this was it. The app confirmed it with one line, "You're here." He stood in front of the door. Delivery?" he called out. His voice sounded small. No answer. He knocked, gently at first. Nothing. He knocked harder. The door creaked, opening a little wider. The apartment beyond was dark, except for the blue glow from an old TV in the living room. He hovered at the threshold. "Hello?" he called. "Ice cream delivery?" Still nothing. He stepped inside. The air was heavy, like a room that hasn't been aired out in a long time. The TV played static. Not snow exactly, just this blue fuzz that flickered. On the coffee table in front of the TV, there were 3 empty styrofoam cups, lids off. Inside, just melted streaks. He placed the new container next to them, wanting to get out as fast as possible. He straightened up to leave and froze. Someone was sitting in the armchair facing the TV. He'd thought it was just a pile of blankets at first, but as his eyes adjusted, he could make out a shape. A woman, thin, still. Ma'am?" he asked quietly. "Your order's here." She didn't move. He cleared his throat. "Look, I don't want to just leave this if you didn't actually order." She spoke without turning around. "You're late," she said. Her voice was rough, like someone who hadn't spoken much in a long time. He checked his phone automatically. The app said he was early. "You sure?" he asked. "It says." "I've been waiting forever," she said, ignoring him. "Forever and ever and ever." He swallowed. "You want me to leave it here?" he asked. She tilted her head slightly. He could see a sliver of her cheek. Her skin looked too pale in the blue light. "Don't open it," she said. "It's not yours." That made him mad in a small, stupid way. "Yeah, that's what the guy at the shop said," he muttered. "What is this, some weird cult of ice cream?" She laughed once, short and humorless. "You think you're just delivering ice cream," she said. "That's cute." He shifted his weight, wanting this to be over. "Well, that's literally my job," he said. "So enjoy, I guess." He turned to go. "Did you ever sleep again?" she asked. His hand froze on the doorframe. He turned back slowly. "What?" he asked. She still hadn't moved. "After the accident," she said, "did you ever sleep again without seeing the headlights?" His mouth went dry. "How do you—" he started, then stopped. He hadn't told anyone about that in detail, not really. "It wasn't your fault," she said. "You know that." He took a step back into the apartment, heart pounding. "Who are you?" he whispered. She finally turned her head slightly. He couldn't see her whole face, just one eye. It was wide, bloodshot, and somehow too clear. "I'm what happens if you never move on," she said. "I'm what you become when you just keep replaying it, over and over and over." He shook his head. This is messed up," he said. "I don't know what you're talking about." She nodded toward the container on the table. "Go ahead," she said. "Open it. Then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about." His fingers twitched. They itched to peel back the lid. He remembered the warning, "Don't open it." "Why?" he asked. "What's in there?" She smiled, just a little. "The same thing that's in all of them," she said. "A version of you that never stopped at the red light." His chest tightened. He had been thinking about that for months. If he hadn't stopped at that light that night, if he'd just blown through it. He forced his feet to move and took another step closer to the coffee table. The container seemed to pulse with cold. Little wisps of white fog curled around the lid. His breath shook. He reached out. His fingers touched the edge of the lid. Instantly, his mind filled with the sound of screeching tires, crushing metal, a woman screaming. He yanked his hand back. "No," he whispered. "Wise," the woman said softly. He turned to look at her fully. When he finally saw her face, his stomach flipped. She didn't look like a monster. She just looked tired. Deep purple shadows under her eyes, skin pale and stretched. But it was her eyes that scared him. They looked exactly like his. Same shape, same color, Same way the left one was a little more hooded than the right. He swallowed. "You're me?" he said. She nodded slightly. "One of you," she said. "The you who never stopped replaying that night. The you who never forgave himself. The you who let guilt eat him until there was nothing left." He shook his head harder. "No, that's not real. This isn't real." She tilted her head. "Is this more or less real than you driving around all night pretending you're fine?" she asked. "More or less real than you jerking awake at 4:12 a.m. every night because that's the exact time of impact?" Tears burned at the corners of his eyes. "How do you—" She cut him off. "Because I'm you," she said. "Or I was, until I opened the container." He stared at it like it might jump. "What happens if I open it?" he whispered. "You stop delivering," she said. "You stop doing anything. You sit here with the TV on and you replay it over and over until the only thing left of you is that moment." He thought about all the nights he'd driven just to stay in motion, so he didn't have to sit in silence with his thoughts. "You don't have to open it," she said. "Some of you don't." He laughed weakly. "Some of us?" he repeated. She nodded toward the hallway outside the apartment. "Go look," she said. "See how many deliveries you've already made." He walked back out, legs unsteady. The hallway was lined with styrofoam containers now, dozens of them, some stacked, some scattered, all sealed. He realized with a cold, sinking feeling that they all had his handwriting on them, the same little mark he always made when checking the customer name. He had been here before, a lot. Back in the apartment, the TV flickered. The blue light pulsed. He walked back in slowly. "I don't understand," he said. "If I've been here before, why don't I remember?" She smiled sadly. "You remember pieces," she said, "in dreams, in those moments where you zone out at red lights, in the way you avoid that one intersection." He swallowed. "Why keep calling me back?" he asked. She nodded at the container. "Because the shop doesn't force you," she said. "It gives you a choice." He thought of the guy at the counter, the warning, the way he'd said, "Be on time." "On time for what?" he asked. "For your decision," she said. He closed his eyes. He remembered the rain that night, the way his phone vibrated in the cup holder, the flash of headlights from the car that ran the light he'd actually stopped at. If he hadn't stopped, he would have been the one hit. Instead, the car behind him took the impact. He'd never stopped thinking about it. He'd never gone back to that intersection. "You can open it and live here forever," she said, "or you can walk out and deliver it." "I thought it was for the woman who doesn't sleep," he said. She nodded. "It is," she said. "She's another version of you, the one who stayed in that night, the one who never got in the car, the one who watched the crash on the news and told herself that could have been me, and then never slept properly again." His head spun. "So, which one am I?" he asked. "You're the one who's still deciding," she said. He stared at the container. The app on his phone buzzed. "Order delayed, customer waiting." His thumb hovered over the screen. He thought of all the times he'd almost broken down in his car and forced himself to keep driving. "I don't want to be stuck," he whispered. "Not in a car, not in a chair, not in my head." She nodded. "Then deliver it," she said. His hand shook as he picked up the container. He carried it to the apartment door. It suddenly felt unbelievably heavy. "How do I know I'm not just walking into another version of this?" he asked. "You don't," she said. "You just walk anyway." He stepped out into the hallway. The cups lining the floor were gone. The hallway looked normal again. His breath came out in a shaky laugh. He took the stairs, container in hand. By the time he reached the lobby, his phone buzzed again. "Order complete, thank you." He hadn't handed it to anyone. He looked down. His hands were empty. The container was gone. He rushed outside onto the sidewalk. The rain had stopped completely. The street was quiet. He turned back to look at the building. The windows were dark, all of them. He checked the app history. The last order he'd completed was from an hour earlier. There was no record of Midnight Sunday, no ice cream order, no woman who doesn't sleep. He checked the map where the ice cream shop had been. Just an empty lot, weeds, a chain-link fence, no building, no sign. He stood there, heart pounding, for a long time. When he finally got back in his car, the dashboard clock said 12:01 a.m. His phone said 11:38 p.m. He turned the key and the radio crackled to life. A jingle played, soft, familiar. He realized he'd heard it before, in some childhood ice cream shop, in a dream. A voice on the radio, cheerful and warm, sang, "Tonight's the night, come have a taste of all the time you've tried to waste." He turned the radio off. He deleted all the delivery apps from his phone that night. He got a different job, a boring one. Daytime shifts, fluorescent lights, regular people. He still doesn't sleep great. But sometimes, when he starts drifting back to that night, he thinks about the container he didn't open. He wonders where it ended up. Who exactly received it? Different towns, different names over the door. Sunny Scoop, Sunday's Best, Midnight Sunday. Different people with different things haunting them. But it's always the same layout, the same quiet hum of the freezers, the same chalkboard in the corner with a flavor that doesn't belong. Sometimes it's called regret, sometimes second chance, sometimes just for you. Maybe you've never noticed it. Maybe you've walked past it 100 times and just thought, hey, a cute little ice cream shop. But if you ever walk in and feel like the air is too cold, or the music is looping just a bit too perfectly, or the guy behind the counter is watching you like he already knows what you're going to order, maybe just get something simple, something boring. And if you see a flavor with no label sitting all the way at the end of the case, looking like it's been waiting for you, you can ask what it is. Just be ready when the answer feels a little too personal. Because these places, they don't really care about money. They care about something else. What you've been holding on to, what you won't let go of, what you secretly wish you could taste one last time, or never taste again. And they always have a special on exactly that. Tonight's flavor might be yours.